Hello, everybody, and welcome to 5 Questions for 5 Women, our series on women and leadership. My name is Louise Glanville, and I'm the CEO of Victoria Legal Aid. I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of all the different lands on which we're located. I'm on the lands of the Wurundjeri people near Melbourne, and I pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and I note that their lands were never ceded. This is the second interview in this series, and I'm so pleased to be joined today by Anna Brown. Anna, welcome.
Hi, Lou.
Good to see you. Anna knows me as Lou, rather than Louise, so thanks for that. A little bit about Anna so you can get a feel for who she is, but I'm sure that many of you will know her. So let me read a little bit about Anna to you. Anna is the CEO of Equality Australia. She's been an advisor to politicians, most notably to Rob Hulls as Attorney General in Victoria. She's been a senior lawyer both at the Victorian Government Solicitor's Office and also, very importantly, at the Human Rights Law Centre, where after a period of 8 years, she became the Director of Legal Advocacy as part of that time. So strong in advocacy in that space. Anna is an activist and an advocate. She was co-convener of the Victorian Pride Lobby and subsequently co-chair of the Australian Marriage Equality Campaign. Anna was named Victorian GLBTI Person of the Year in 2014, and that was at the first Globe Community Awards. In 2019, she was awarded the Medal of the Order of Australia, so OAM, for her service to human rights and to the LGBTIQ community. In the same year, really interestingly, and this was something I didn't know, she was named as the winner of the Social Enterprise and Not-for-Profit category in the Australian Financial Review's 100 Women of Influence Awards. So that's a bit about Anna. And now, Anna, over to you. 5 questions for you. So the first we want to get a bit of an idea from you about is, tell us a bit about yourself as you'd like to tell it, what motivates you and some of your personal priorities.
Sure. Well, thank you for the interview. I feel very honoured to be speaking with Louise Glanville about these matters because you've always been a bit of a role model for me ever since I met you back working for Rob Hulls. For me, it was really during university when I was studying politics and law that I became, I think, really passionate about social justice and got a taste for what the law can do to improve people's lives, but also advocacy and achieving change with groups of people. I found that really energizing, and it really, I guess I was politicized at university, like many of us are, and that's what really set me on my trajectory of whether it was in a corporate law firm at Allen's, being really motivated to work and assist pro bono clients, or refugee or homeless clients, or eventually landing the job with Halsey and really seeing how,
as he's commonly known.
Yeah, as he's commonly known. Seeing how you can really, at that sort of level, make incredibly positive change in people's lives. So that, that's, once you get it, I think a taste for that, it's really quite addictive. So that's what drives me is making that lasting change and seeing also the impact it has on clients and people that individuals you're helping directly, but also the systems change that you can achieve as well through advocacy and law reform.
Yeah, that's terrific. What have you sort of learnt as part of that journey in terms of advocacy and strategic work or litigation? What have you learnt about that, and what have you learnt about yourself in relation to that?
Well, for me, I felt incredibly privileged to have that role as an advisor, because you get to see inside government and also that helicopter view of a department and government and how decisions are made. So I very much felt, once I'd had that experience, and also experience as a commercial litigator in private practice, then being outside government, I thought, well, I really felt like I needed to use those skills to do what I could to improve the situation for others. And it was that realization that my skills and experience were incredibly useful, and that many people out there working in the community sector or working to advocate for change don't have that knowledge or understanding of government. And you know, a lot of what I've tried to do is pass on that knowledge and understanding to others that I work with in the not-for-profit space or in the community area. And just really that being constructive is much more powerful than being combative. So I've always tried to achieve change. You know, you've got to, it's always a bit of stick and carrot, but you need to give people the opportunity to grow and move into a space, mainly decision makers, because if that's who you're trying to influence, or people out there in the general community. Everyone's on a journey, so give them the vision of the world you want to create, the benefit that will flow, and then when it comes to political change, making sure that as a community we're building our for the LGBTI community, I'm talking about here, we're building our power together, our collective power. And there is you know, there's that relationship with political leaders where we will hold you accountable if you don't do the right thing as well. So definitely I guess my personal style is to be more constructive and collaborative, but always knowing that you know, if politicians, I think politicians will see me as an advocate, that if I'm principled, but if I will call out poor behaviour or a lack of commitment to human rights and the sort of community we should be creating together.
It's very wise. I've learned a lot from that. Can I say, just as a follow-on to that, how do you manage your frustration, though, in that? Because you give a very calm demeanour. I'm not sure if you're always like that, but personally, I find myself getting aggravated when I feel people can't see what's the bleeding obvious in front of them. So I'm just interested in how you manage that emotional side of yourself.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? And as I've become more experienced, it seems the politicians I'm dealing with, not surprisingly, are sometimes less experienced as you. So it's sometimes I feel like, you know, and you know, I hear the voice of someone like Rob Hulls in my head. Well, you know, get elected if you want to be in there making those decisions. So it's my choice to be someone out there externally influencing. So I need to accept that. But it can be frustrating. I think I just really, for whatever reason, I don't know why I have this ability, is generally a patient person, and I can take people, I can always see some good in people. So whether I'm dealing with a conservative liberal or a more progressive moderate liberal or someone from the Labor Party or the Greens, I really try and find that common ground and shift them in a positive direction. And that obviously needs to be further for some people, but sometimes that can be the more rewarding outcome, is when you've seen someone come on a journey from a lack of understanding on when it comes to LGBTI issues, for example, to full acceptance. So when I see someone like, you know, James Merlino, for example, at the start of his political career was not known as someone who was a supporter of our communities, and now you see him out there advocating strongly for programs like Safe Schools, and that's a wonderful thing. And so we need to see, I mean, and I really believe in the power of human stories. So I can only take a decision maker so far. I know that what they often need is a human being in front of them that they can emotionally connect with, and that's what, you know, you just see the pennies start to drop. And that's what I really take with my work, is just can I get a human being in front of this person to actually explain the difference
Yeah.
between them doing not supporting that person, actually thinking about how they can be doing their job in a way that brings our community together.
Yeah, yeah. For you, Anna, what makes a leader? It's a funny sort of question, but because it'll be many things. But what primarily do you see makes a leader, and what did you particularly learn as a leader in the marriage equality campaign?
Well, for me, what makes a leader is someone that speaks out when it's not necessarily the most popular topic or issue, but you firmly believe in your principles and you're willing to speak out when others don't. That's one aspect of it. And I really saw that not just during marriage equality, but particularly around the religious discrimination bill, which was not as popular or salient an issue across the community. It wasn't well understood. So I really was noticing that a lot of organisations that were there for marriage equality weren't necessarily supporting our communities in the same way, during what was arguably a bigger threat in some ways to the day-to-day lives of LGBTIQ plus people. But during marriage, speaking on a more personal level, what I saw as leadership a lot of the time during the most stressful times of the campaign, where people were panicking or there was it was a really difficult time for our community, was that ability to stay calm and to think clearly in a crisis, and also focus on bringing the team together, bringing the community together. What are the values and sort of behaviours that will unite us in a positive campaign? And I really saw a lot of that in Tim Gartrell, the political director that we hired to run the campaign during the postal survey phase. Now, he's a straight ally, but he's got an incredibly experienced he's got an incredibly calm manner, and he's a very experienced hand at these things. So that I learned a lot from seeing the way he worked, and just that level of calm when, especially in those early days after they called the postal survey and it was on terms that we hadn't agreed. It was a whole new, it was the ABS. I mean, all of these strange features of this obscure process, and that's when we weren't ready, and we were rapidly trying to scale up and build this campaign infrastructure, and also fighting the plebiscite in the High Court. And having spent so many months trying to stop it, we were really conscious that we didn't want to poison the idea of a vote so much that people couldn't pivot to fighting it to win it. So that was a real challenge. But yeah, I think calm heads and staying positive, and also just believing that being very positive about the prospects of success, and that you're on the right side of history, and that we will get through this. And we may have limped over the finish line, but we did make it to the finish line. It was an incredible moment for our community, but also the nation.
Yeah, so it's like keep your eye on the prize, and exactly. You created a new organisation, really, and you and others in Equality Australia. What have you learned about yourself as a woman and a leader as part of that process? Because that's quite a big thing, really.
No, I mean, I very much believed after marriage equality that we could just walk away, and everyone was going off on their well-deserved holidays, but I knew there were so many more issues that needed to be tackled for LGBTIQ plus people, and we didn't have a national organisation, and we had this incredible opportunity with the infrastructure that was built during marriage equality to create that. So I'm really, looking back, I'm really glad that I did it, because convinced other people to come on the journey, obviously, because otherwise there would have been no no organisation there when the threats and the backlash started coming. And we know that the Christian lobby and other groups are really heavily resourced, and their major priority is to continue to stigmatise and marginalise LGBTIQ plus people in our relationships and families. So sadly, they're not going away anytime soon. So we have to keep moving forward. And it was like a startup phase again for me. So it was, it hasn't been an easy few years. I've certainly got a few more grey hairs. You
can't see them.
Yeah. Thanks, Lou. It was interesting comparing these few years to marriage equality, because marriage equality, there was lots of chefs and cooks and so many different personalities, and I sometimes felt like I was in the business of managing all the egos. That's what was one of my strengths, keeping everyone happy, and some big personalities. And it's been really good being able to create my own organisation and setting a bit of a different culture in terms of the team. We've got I have a really wonderful team, and I think that's what I've learned is the importance of recruiting people that complement your strengths, that help you fill those weaknesses, and once you've got the right team, you really can do anything. And it is, whether it's marriage equality or whether it's Equality Australia, I do notice that it's, we could talk about this for hours, but it's fascinating that people still look to the man in the room when you go into a meeting. Not everyone, but often, even if I sit down with a more junior male team member, people will often look to that person rather than me in a conversation. So it's, it's just needing to assert yourself. I think as a woman, and I don't know, it's not as though gay men are immune from sexism. So whether you're in the LGBTI community or whether you're in the mainstream, sexism is still there and prevalent, and it's just making sure that you back yourself, you speak out, you assert yourself, and I think model the sort of behaviour you'd like to see in others as well.
I'm 62 now and I still have that same experience, so I don't think it goes away. And interestingly, I think people like Isabella Allende is a great writer, and Germaine Greer talk about the invisibility of older women.
Yes,
I think that's a really interesting feature and something I sort of never anticipated and never expected, but I think there is something in that, and I think it's a really useful point you make about when you're in the room, how are you in the room, and what does that look like?
And just making, I literally used to go into meetings with politicians that were renowned for not really paying attention to women, and I'd say to my male colleagues, look, this is going to sound crazy, but I need to sit in the middle, and you two need to sit either side of me, because otherwise this politician won't even look at me. And they were just astonished the way in which, what I anticipated would play out. Not all, obviously not all politicians. I really see the invisibility of women, older women, and I think for lesbian women, I don't know, it might even be more. There's greater levels of invisibility, because we're not always grandmothers and those typical female roles in the same way. We're not available for men.
So I've got your fifth question in this 5 Questions for 5 Women series is just to ask you, if there was one thing you'd change in the world, what would that be? Pretty cheesy question, but actually important because it will tell us something about you.
Well, I'll stay on message and say it would be for people to be, everyone, to be affirmed and valued and loved regardless of sexuality, gender, or sex characteristics, or indeed any other attribute, so that we all feel part of our community and valued for who we are.
Yeah. Anna Brown, thank you so much. You've been very generous in your reflections and incredibly honest. So it's been great to see and talk with you again. So thank you for your contribution, and everyone, I'll see you next time on 5 Questions for 5 Women. Thanks so much, Anna. Bye for now.
Thanks, Louise.